So league I have taken over. It was an orphan. I can't release too many details on it and everything, but it almost had like a little implosion. Some of the guys obviously like listen to this podcast every now and then. And they don't like that I talk about them. But man, some of these guys, it is a not safe place if you can't handle trash. Like you would fit in just fine, but there is some personal jabs, some trash talk and everything, and it's crazy. Somebody came in, peacemaker, laid it all down. Anyways, what I was trying to say is in that league, I hold the 1-1 and the 1-2, and I am really struggling with what I should do because I'm rebuilding. So like I'm rebuilding, I should I should try and accomplish, a feat of turning the team around as fast as I can. And I know a lot of people that are like, well, this draft class sucks. And I get that idea.
Yeah.
But I would still rather keep those 2 picks and draft a rookie quarterback and Breece Hall, who is in my eyes is going to be undoubted like 1-1 across all leagues. I'd feel more comfortable drafting them than trading down and getting more. I don't know. I'm stuck in this dilemma because I should want to trade, but I also just want to draft, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do because I never had that luxury of having 1-1 and 1-2 in a league. So I kind of just want to see how it goes.
I mean, you could probably deal the 1-2, hold on to the 1-1, deal the 1-2 and rebuild that way, depending on what kind of setup you got. Yeah, I fully understand about, leagues and people being toxic and everything, aka our sleeper league together when we had that little implosion over the weekend.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and that's another thing to bring up is like, so let's talk about this before we dive into our episode. Welcome on into Second and Shorts, the Cheap Sheets Fantasy and Dynasty podcast this offseason, breaking down every NFL division and buying and keeping and trading away players from every NFL team. This week's episode is going to be the NFC North. But before we dive onto that, let's talk about a very topical question. And that is, after a trade happens in your league, what can and can you not do in terms of talking about that trade? Because a trade went down from an owner that has had like 3 or 4 very favorable trades go in their favor. And the league consensus was that they lost this deal that they just had. And it seemed like there was a gang mentality of like 3 or 4 owners jumping down that other guy and telling him how much he lost. And he didn't like it at all.
He thought that, I guess, that opinions are favorable if they're against him, because he lost the trade in my opinion, and 2 owners kind of let him have it on the trade. I let him have it because he was being a unfavorable female, because he got butthurt over people talking about him losing on the trade, which he has fleeced some owners in that league.
He has
tremendously. And to see him get fleeced, everybody was kind of happy. And just let him know that he was upset that everybody let him know that we were happy that he got fleeced on a deal. And he took it to a realm like nobody could criticize or chastise his trades or anything, but he had no problem when we was telling him that he won out on the trades previously.
I do think that there is friendly banter. Now, he does not want a league that he doesn't say that I've talked to him in a private DM, and he doesn't want this to be like a situation where nobody can trash talk. He's okay with that, but I think he felt that it went too far. At times I thought it did too. But that just leads to the question of like, when a trade happens, how much slack should you give somebody else in a trade? Does it really matter to bash somebody if they lost out on a trade? Does that really matter? Like, if in the terms of thinking of things, if you make a terrible trade in one of our leagues, why do I have to tell you made a terrible trade? Like, you'll just see that it was terrible in a few months. Like, you're going to see that result anyway. So in that mindset, I get it. There's no real need to say anything. But in a situation, let's say I'm a trash talker. I talk a lot. Let's say I make a bad move. The whole league wants to jump on me and trash talk me because I'm known to trash talk. I think that's a situation that's okay. I think I'm a little too far. I think the don'ts in this situation are: don't tag an owner that lost the trade. Talk about it in the league chat, sure. don't tag him. The guy that did tag him took it back. Good on him. But ultimately, I think that having your own opinion on a trade is fair. I don't think you should get upset at that. But I do think you need to be careful treading water, because I think that we are in a day and age where it's not like saying people are too sensitive, but there's no reason for people to, like, if they're upset with the league dynamic and how people are talking, to not just grab their ball and go home and leave. And then you try and find a new owner. So I think there is like a gray area that you have to stay in 100%.
But also the fact that he brought it up an entire day later and reignited everything, that's what a lot of the other owners and me personally had an issue with, because it was done. We bust these balls. It was over. It said done with. And then he like came back an entire day later, and it was like, because I talked to the other two owners, and they was like, we was done with it. Mm-hmm. We had no problem. But the fact that he brought it up, yeah, that's just going to make us go after him more. And I'm like, hey, I'm on board with you. I understand, because you gotta understand that it's, as long as this don't go to a personal realm, talk shit, bash. Especially this guy has done, from my understanding, because I'm new to the league, he's done very well in this league. He's built this. He's got a pretty solid team.
He's got a really good team. He finished second place last year. I think he finished third the year before. He's a pretty good team. Now, with all that being said, let's just jump into our main topic of the day. You guys can, give us your opinions. We're going to have a Twitter poll up the day of this podcast as well to see your guys' reactions on that too, and to get your feedback across Dynasty Leagues. But let's go ahead and talk about the Chicago Bears. And the first person we're going to talk about, we're going to be talking about a guy that we are going to buy. Now, formats, we talk about this all the time, but let's say that you haven't been following all these, or you've only seen a couple. Essentially, the format does not matter to this buy, keep, trade. If I want to talk about a super flex, I will mention that. But otherwise, this just goes for universally what you should do. Obviously, if something favors that position a little bit more, it makes more sense to do so. And with our first person, I say that we should go out and we need to buy, going into his third year, tight end Cole Kmet. I think that he is the type of guy that, 60 catches, over 600 yards. He finished, I don't even know, what did he finish as? He was like tight end 20, and he had 0 touchdowns on the year. That's pretty good considering how touchdown dependent most tight ends are. And if you just add in like 5-6 touchdowns, he moves up probably a tier. And that probably is going to come back this next year working with Fields as well.
Yeah, I like this because you got to get some familiarity in the offense. Chicago had none this year.
Nope.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but you had Dalton, you had Fields. I mean, there was no consistency there. So therefore, your receivers and your offense couldn't get in sync together with the current change, with the constant changing and, Allen Robinson not performing up to his. So you get that level. So I would actually move him up a few spots from where he finished this year, just on potential alone, due to consistency that is expected.
Yeah, and I think that he is a guy that you can buy relatively cheap, even in probably not in tight end premiums as much, but when you compare him to the overall amount of tight ends around, if you have a top tier guy, let's say that you have a Kels on your team. That's just the best example here. And he's hitting that peak age where you're worried that at one day he's just going to call it quits. A guy like Kmet sitting on that backdrop, as your backup for that, bye week filler, I think would be a really good guy to go out and buy that has the potential upside to overtake and move into the top 10. Now let's move on to somebody that you want to trade for, trade away from the Chicago Bears. Like, who are you wanting to get rid of from this Bears team?
I'm trading Fields based on there is no consistency in that offense outside of Montgomery. This offense is a dumpster fire, and I think Fields is one of those quarterbacks that you can sell on potential alone for him becoming the starter. I think you're not going to get what you feel that you should get out of him, but you're going to get a pretty fair value. Depending on if it's super flex, you're going to get a much better rookie pick. You're going to be up there in about the 1.5 range, I feel. Non-super flex, you're going to drop down about 2 spots. But yeah, I think Fields is one of those potential premium candidates that you can sell because there's going to be a lot of work. You're going to have to invest a lot into him in order to produce. So with that being said, I'm not a Fields believer. I own him in a couple of leagues. Mm-hmm. He's my QB3. In case of injury, break glass. That's where I own him. I got him relatively cheap. I got him for a 2.7 in one league.
In a single quarterback, right?
Yeah, single
not a
quarterback.
super flex.
Yeah, I got him 2.7 in a single quarterback, and because I don't play very many super flex unless it's with you. And then I got him for I think it was Madsen and a 2.11 is what I got him for Italy. So, and he's like my QB3 in both of those leagues. Nothing like that he has to step in and produce for me, but he can sit on my bench. And, if he does develop, great. I win the trades. If he doesn't, I feel that I didn't lose out on much value.
Hold on. But you're saying that you want to trade him away and not have him on your rosters, but you just talked about 2 instances that you've already made trades.
Yeah, I've got him, but no, I'm saying I've got him, but he's a player that I would try to move in the instance there. I'm saying I bought the price I bought him for. I'm not upset with. You can go out and get these other aspects, and that's what you should do. But, I'm just saying that if you're trading him away, look to package him. Look to package him in a deal. I got him because he's a QB3. You don't need to be trying to expect him to go ahead. That's why I said you're not going to get the value you think you should get for him. You're going to get fair market value. You're going to think you should get more because he's going to be a starting quarterback. You need to take for extra expectations.
I would not trade him away for what you got him for. I would not be happy with getting a mid-second round pick and Alexander Madison in a down rookie draft year. I think that's an easy win for you. In Superflex, I wouldn't take less than a first plus for him because I don't think I can actually replace him. And I think that if you are going to trade him, you're going to trade him on this rushing upside, which he had over 400 yards rushing last year in 12 games. One of those, he was the backup to Dalton in week 1. So really 11 games, he had 400 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns rushing as well. And I think that upside is there because any quarterback that can run for 500 yards is a plus in the fantasy world. In Superflex, though, I feel like you could really sell him right now on this upside of a new head coach, offense is turning around. Mooney just kind of broke out a little bit. Montgomery is consistent. He's going to get better now that he's going to have the full reins and trust of being the starting quarterback. And you're going to get him for more. I mean, he finishes quarterback 31 in those 11 games. If you give him a full slate of games with more trust and more development here, and who knows what they're going to add. If the Bears go and add another, they have Komet who can be taking another step up. They go add another good number 2 wide receiver after Allen Robinson leaves. Somebody that can be healthy. That's going to help develop for Fields as well. And you can sell him on these points. But I wouldn't take anything less than a first plus in a super flex. And I would probably want 112 in a single quarterback plus. So 2-1 plus. Something a little bit, favorable just based on his upside. Now, speaking of one of those guys that I talked about, let's talk about a guy that I think you should keep, and that is Allen Robinson. Now, Allen Robinson, this guy, we can't really talk about his year because he only played in what are you playing? He played in 12 games, but he was hurt. I think he was just hurt all year. And I think he was just he booked his time. He's ready to get out. I mean, 2 years in a row, he broke over 1,000 yards with the Bears. And I think that him entering free agency, you probably could buy him for pretty cheap, but we can't talk about that because I think Komet's the best value there. You can't really trade him for anything. So he falls in this keep category because I think wherever he goes is going to be a better offensive situation, almost guaranteed, than where he is now. And that's the reason I want to hold on to him, because he can be a sneaky wide receiver 3 or 4 for you next year, depending on the offense he goes to.
Yeah, the news just broke that the Bears are going to let him seek other options outside of their organization. So that really factors into me definitely wanting to keep him. The talent's there.
Yes.
This kind of goes back to our Mike Williams discussion is, the talent's there, and he's going to produce wherever he goes, unless he loses his mind and stays in Chicago. Mm-hmm. So he has that flex appeal, most definitely. Wide receiver 2 is definite upside. So, yeah, I mean, he's a plug-and-play player. He had a great seasons in spurts in Jacksonville. He goes to the Bears. He has solid seasons. But, we got to wait and see. So that's why I like he's in a holding pattern. That's why I like where you have him as a hold here. Because wherever he lands, that's going to dictate his value.
And statistically speaking, based on how poor the Bears offense was, he should land in a better offensive spot. That's what we're hoping for. All right, now let's move on to the Detroit Lions, and a team that has some standouts in the offensive department here. They are kind of a little worse for wear in NFL terms, but there's a lot of guys that I think you can get from this team that can really benefit you. Now, a guy that I want to go out and buy, this is going to be a hard buy, but I want to go and get TJ Hawkinson, tight end. He was tight end 15 this year. He battled some injuries. He's really he was their best option, but Swift kind of got involved in that passing game a little bit. We saw Williams kind of step in, wide receivers, St. Brown and Raymond kind of step up. The Lions are probably going to draft a wide receiver as well, probably in the second round, or with that late first that they have. I could see him doing that as well. But for me, he's a guy that I think is a reliable tight end 1. He's like the 10, 11, 12 range. But I think having a little bit of a down season, seeing the rise of St. Brown, and then knowing that the Lions are probably going to draft a receiver early is probably going to lead to Hawkinson being more obtainable now than he will be at all going forward. Because I think that he's going to break out as a top 5 guy going into next year.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Hawkinson's. I'm trying to buy him in quite a few of my leagues. So he is a hard buy. A lot of people are asking very steep prices. They're asking, like Waller level returns for him. And, I am a fan, but I'm not that much of a fan to overpay. Like they're asking for like my 1 4-1 league to get him, and I rejected that pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But I see him as a viable option. He's going to be a solid tight end. He could be definitely filling that tight end 1 role for you, especially once he gets healthy. And the others around him stepping up, letting him have those catches underneath. He's a big body, big frame, great red zone production and target. So, yeah, this is a great buy. Though you may have to pay a little bit for him, but it will pay off in the end.
Yeah, and I know normally like our buys are like guys that we think you can get like good value for type thing that are like kind of on the cheap that we think could have upside. My thing is that I think this is the cheapest he will be before he breaks out and he reaches that Travis Kelce, George Kittle type of ceiling that I see him having, which is more so of like in this draft, it's like give me your 1-1 type situation where you're, because it's such a depleted position that if you have like a top tier scoring guy, then people are going to want that. They're going to crave it. So if you can somehow get him now for, let's say like 112, I would trade 112 in a single quarterback straight up for Hawkinson right now. I would do that. Darren Waller for Hawkinson, I would do that trade straight up as well right now. There's a lot of deals that I would try and do of trading my number 1 running back for a guy that is, a lesser tiered running back, like running back 14, whoever that is, and get TJ Hawkinson as well thrown in. That's something that I would try and pair right now to bolster your team I think having a guy that is going to break into that ceiling is very important before that breakout happens. And coming off a down year and all those factors I mentioned might be the best time to strike in some leagues. If you have smart owners like you do there, it's going to be very hard to buy him, but you could have it happen. Now, a guy that you should be keeping, talk about him, Deandre Swift. This is a pretty simple, straightforward one.
Yeah, Swift is pretty much one of the easier ones to keep because he's a running back you can build around. He's got nice hands that he actually got to show in the second half of the season. He's got a nice running. He doesn't take a lot of punishment. When he runs, he's a smart runner. He likes to not take on those hard hits, those heavy contact hits when he gets through the line. So yeah, this is a no-brainer for me to keep and build around. And like I said, Detroit's young. They're building a team. So it's not like you're going to have a short shelf life with them. He's going to be a top 10 running back year in, year out. What he finished this year? You have it in front of you.
Running back like 16, but he only played in 13 games.
Yeah, but he had those. Yeah, he had a few games missed. So yeah, this is good, a good cornerstone of your offense that you can keep and feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think trading him away, this is a year or two too early to trade him away, I think. And I think buying him is very hard to do because I think in ADPs for single quarterbacks, right now he's going in the first 2 rounds automatically. He might be even sneaking in the back of the first. Depends on how much people like last year's rookie running backs. But he's a guy that is, he had 1,000 total yards this year, 7 touchdowns. He has 135 targets receiving in the past 2 years. So he's going to get thrown to no matter who's quarterback. Now, speaking of which, the guy that you want to trade away is the quarterback. I'm surprised at this. I thought it would have been Amon-Ra St. Brown, whose value peaked from 3rd round rookie draft pick to probably getting you a 1st round. But you want to trade away Jared Goff. What is your deal? You're just done with Goff already?
Well, no, I'm trading him away to get younger and for the emergence of the team around him. Goff's going to produce, but also you don't want to hang your hat on it. And I'm looking at this from, like we preference. I'm looking at this simply from a super flex standpoint. You want to try to get younger in the position. Not saying that Goff's old by any stretch.
He's only 27.
He's in his prime. Yeah, like he's in his twilight. But also, I want to try to get value. I'm looking at this as like a super flex. If you do have him available, it's good. But he's also one of those quarterbacks that's going to get a lot of garbage time that you want to cash in on in super flex owners because that defense is not great. The emergence of St. Brown, Hawkinson, Swift out of the backfield would make him enticing to be somebody's QB2 in that super flex role. So this is the mentality I have with shifting him off my team, especially if you got other options there that you can plug and play, because I think the consistency is getting there, but it's not there yet. So you want to sell him on value alone. Potential value.
I think he is a very hard sell right now because his value is very low. I don't know. In a super flex, I would want at least a 1st for him, but I don't know who would pay me a 1st for Goff. I'd probably have to settle for a high 2nd. And that's the problem lies of he is the starting quarterback as we speak right now for this team. Do I try and cash in because I think he's not going to be the starting quarterback and somebody else does? Or do I hold because I'm not getting enough in return and I just ride this out till he's no longer a starter? It is very risky if you don't get a good return because Goff is a guy that you would have drafted in Superflex in your 1st round with the rookie pick. If you probably acquired him 2-3 years ago, probably cost you 1st and plus.
Yeah.
I don't know. In single quarterback, I don't even know if he's the type of guy that I would try and roster. But that's because I try and have a guy that finished in the teens as my quarterback too. If you can trade him and get in a single quarterback like a late second, you're probably good. And if you can get a late first for him in a super flex, I would probably do that as well. Just because of he is only 27. And even if he has a big contract, even if he gets cut by the Lions, it's not like the NFL is just filled with like 32 great quality starting quarterbacks that he couldn't potentially latch on and find a job and go like the a la, Mitch Trubisky route that we're seeing right now. But as it stands, he is a starting quarterback, and you can use that to sell. If you're rebuilding in a super flex, you should get him off your roster immediately. Take the 112 from somebody that's, that just won the championship, and they need a good number 2 or 3, a good number 3 quarterback in a super flex, and they're trying to get greedy. Take that from them. That's a good plus for you. Works for them. Try and find a win-win situation, is what I think. Now, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, and let's go ahead and have you kick it off right away. Let's talk about a guy that you want to trade away as well from the Green Bay Packers. Who are you getting rid of?
I'm getting rid of. It pains me to say this because I'm a huge fan of him in fantasy. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting rid of Aaron Jones. I think he's going to be potentially a casualty with the atrocious salary cap situation in Green Bay.
A casualty to what? What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying he's going to be going to. My prediction is he's going to be going to another team. That he's not going to have the talent around to be able to produce his numbers. Oh. He's got that short shelf life. Right now he finished running back. I'm going to say he probably finished about running back 7.
He was running back 11 on the year.
Oh, really? I had him a little higher. So you want to try to get value. You want to sell because of the talent around him currently. Because he may fall into that situation where the Packers want to go younger, shed some contract space because they want to keep Rodgers, which is up there. There's a lot of uncertainty there. So I think this is a good time to cash in on a solid running back one that a team that needs to get that push to get over the hill to be a contender. They're maybe your 4 or 5 seed last year, maybe even a 3, and they need that running back to help them, take that next step. I think it's a good place to sell him and try to get max value out of him.
Yeah, I do think we do see when running backs hit their second contract is a good time to try and move and sell. He is fresh 27 going into this year. So this could be the last year that he has this like clear prime where you're not as worried. But then again, he could have like 2 or 3 more years. But the big thing is with him potentially being, moved on or whatever the Green Bay does in their situation with salary cap. I think the biggest thing is that AJ Dillon is right there on his tails. We saw him drop. He dropped 40 carries this past year. We saw his targets only go up by 2. So like his touches went down by 38 with AJ Dillon getting more touches. He only played in 15 games this year. So he missed 2 games, which I probably only missed 1 game because I guess the last game against Detroit. But I do think that trading away Aaron Jones this time right now could be a smart move if you're a middle of the road team. We've probably seen his peak of where he's at. And again, when you're at that was running backs at their second contract, it makes me really nervous to want to like stay latched onto them for too long. Let's go to keep. But a guy that I think that you should keep, and I know this is really weird because we don't know where he's going to go, but Devonta Adams, he was the wide receiver 2 last year in fantasy, and he would have been the wide receiver 1 if Cooper Kupp didn't have like a historic year. Like if Cooper Kupp would have just had a regular year, he would have been number 1. He had 123 receptions, 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns. He was top 5 in all those categories. And he is now in a situation where he does not want to be in Green Bay unless they pay him to be in Green Bay because it's Green Bay. I can't stop yawning. And I think that no matter where he goes, even at age 29, he'll be 30 at the end of the year. No matter where he goes, I think that he is going to still receive 150 targets, especially if they pay him to be the number 1 receiver in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. I think he is a great keep due to a lot of a lot of receivers are going to be moving pieces this year. So you're going to see a lot of new faces on teams. And I think this is one that wherever he ends up, he's going to get the volume. He's going to get the value due to the volume, which we talk about often. So, yeah, I think this is set. And he's got that age that people may shy away from. But this is great. I mean,
he's hard to trade away right now. I have tried trading him away in a league that I am contending in, and people are scared of him not having Aaron Rodgers, of him getting a big contract and disappearing, or him going to a new place and being unfamiliar with the offense and not meshing well with another quarterback, which kind of ties into not having Aaron Rodgers, but it's not Rodgers in a new location. I just don't think that matters. I think you could have Jordan Love. I think you could have Aaron Rodgers. I think you'd have Trevor Lawrence just because the Jags can afford him. And I don't think that it will matter at all on how well he performs. I think nothing will, outside of injury, will knock Adams out of being a top 10 receiver for the next 2 years. And unfortunately, people won't trade you for that, as they think that he could fall off without Rodgers. And I don't understand it. I've watched him play. I watched how this guy like just goes up and gets everything. And he's just ball dominant. I think this guy could play with all 32 quarterbacks and be a top 12 dynasty wide receiver year in and year out. That's
no doubt.
Like Rodgers helps, but if that's the case, then how come like Scandace Vantling or whatever isn't a top 20 wide receiver? You know what I mean? Like how come all these other guys in Green Bay aren't dominating if Rodgers makes all these receivers that much better? You know what I mean? So in that sense, no, he can go anywhere he wants to go. He had 169 targets this year. If he goes and gets paid $30 million a year, he'll receive 200 targets the next year, probably, just because they want to get all their money's worth out of him.
And I like the hot take you put. You know, I would love to see him in Jacksonville. I think that would be a great landing spot for him. So I like a prediction that you threw out there willy nilly.
Yeah. Now let's talk about a guy you want to buy. Who are you buying right now from the Green Bay Packers?
I'm buying Jordan Love. I think Rodgers is going to do one of two things. He's either going to piss and moan like he did last year, or they're going to overpay him and he's going to want to run the team, and he doesn't want Jordan Love breathing down his neck to be the heir apparent. Yeah, he made that known when they drafted him. He was displeased with them even drafting him. Not saying that they don't have a professional working relationship, but he kind of took it as a slap in the face. And Love is a cheap buy right now. You can get him really cheap because people are sold on Rodgers being a cornerstone, and maybe that Love will never take over, or Love will be out of Green Bay. And
even in the games that we saw Jordan Love, he didn't really stand out enough to be like looked at as like, oh, like that guy's easily taking over. He looks like he needs a little more time to maybe work, or he just needs to change the scenery.
Yeah, I mean, it is Green Bay. Who could be happy to be in Green Bay, especially in the winter? So definitely think that he's somebody you could get really cheap, probably next to nothing. I'm thinking maybe a late second, a handcuff running back and a pick, some kind of small package. I think this is a prime time to pick up on him and let him set and develop on your bench, and then explode onto the scene and be a core QB2 for you, if not a QB1.
Yeah, and I here's the thing, and I always laugh about that Aaron Rodgers being mad that they like drafted him because like he didn't want them to. Like, I'm pretty sure Brett Favre didn't want them to draft Aaron Rodgers in the first round when they did, but they did. Like it's ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jordan Love's a pretty affordable guy you can get right now in all formats, Superflex as well, because he's not a starter. And the uncertainty, I mean, I saw a report out, I forget where it was. I was just going through my timelines, and somebody was saying that like they saw like him as like a third round pick or like a day 3 pick in a trade So like his value in real NFL is pretty low as well, which kind of goes towards he didn't play very well. We don't even know if he could deliver. When he was drafted, people were kind of saying like, why was he drafted in the first round? He probably should be a second round guy. And all those things kind of just lead to his value kind of dropping a little bit. And this is one of those like low risk, high reward situations. And yeah, I stand by it. I don't exactly know what his value is for trade in a Superflex. I don't know if he would cost you. He might cost you like a mid-second, which is a very like in a draft like this might be the right time to strike.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a mid-second for him.
Yeah, who knows? And maybe you could even, who knows? Maybe that's where you Jared Goff, Jordan Love type trade, somebody wants a little more security and they want a guy that they know that can start versus Jordan Love. Maybe you can pull a deal off with that, with you sending Goff and like a third for Love or something, where you just kind of, you want to get younger, you want to rebuild, you're going to get rid of these older guys and you're going to do what you can to get these younger guys that have a chance to bloom and blossom. Now, from one quarterback to another, Minnesota Vikings time. We're going to talk about buying Kirk Cousins. And I've been a big supporter of Kirk Cousins his entire NFL career. I have a lot of Vikings fans in my family that don't like him because he's not Case Keenum, which is still hilarious because Case Keenum was nothing without that offensive play calling that he had that year. I think you should buy Kirk Cousins. He finished as quarterback 11. And he's in this conversation of, will he stay? Will he go? If he stays, he gets Justin Jefferson, and he has Adam Thielen still, Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison. We see the potential of what do we have? Tyler Conklin kind of stepped up a little bit too at tight end because Irv Smith Jr. was out, but Irv Smith Jr. should be healthy. And that's a nice little combo dual form at tight end. And KJ Osborne, if he decides to stay, I'm not sure how that contract situation is for him or if he's restricted or anything. But the talent there, if he stays, is good enough to produce for you in fantasy a quarterback one type of production, and yet you can buy him as if he was a quarterback two. Now, I almost bought him for a mid first rounder this year in a superflex, like 1.9 straight up, but the guy backed out of it. But that's what the guy asked for, and then when I offered it, he said no. But that means that there are people out there that were willing to offer stuff like that. And I think in a super flex, that is a great buy for a guy that is going to help you win a championship.
Yeah. And this has been a topic of a lot of our off-air discussions is, Kirk Cousins doesn't get the love he deserves.
No.
He's got a solid cast around him of talent. He's familiar with the offense. He's going to be familiar. He's got a nice repertoire with Thielen and Jefferson now. This is a good quarterback that you can get for a good value that's going to produce where you can address other positions and get better. And this is going to be a serviceable QB1 for you. So, yeah, I love that buy. It's going to be somebody that you get. And you probably could ride him out for 2 years while you're building other aspects of your team.
I think so as well. Yeah, and I think he still has time. It's not like he's not even old in comparison to quarterbacks. Like he's gonna be entering this season. His birthday's in August, so he'll be turning 34 when the season starts. Like he's like 4 years younger than Aaron Rodgers, 4 or 5 years younger. Like I would take that in an instant, because that's 4 or 5 years of quarterback one to high quarterback two play. And you're not buying him as like a top 12 dynasty quarterback asset. Like you might be able to, you're talking about trading away Justin Fields. You might be, and there might be people that say I'm crazy, but you could probably sell Justin Fields for Kirk Cousins and you probably can get a little bit more on that deal. You probably could get like Kirk Cousins in like a second for Justin Fields. And if you're contending, that's a great deal. I'd have to look at the numbers on that and see how common that is, but I think Kirk Cousins right now is way cheaper than he should be across all formats. Now, a guy that you should keep no matter what, because I mean, why would you not keep him? Is Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
This guy is Probably in non-superflex leagues. In startups this year, will be drafted in probably be the first or second receiver off the board. Probably like a top 5 consensus pick, you'd say. Yeah, you'd say that's pretty fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say 5 to 7 range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think a guy like that you keep, because here's the thing: if you're going to trade him away, you need a king's ransom. And that's not very like logical for us to say like, oh, he's an obvious trade, because you could get 17 first round picks for him. But nobody's going to sell you the farm for Justin Jefferson. Now, if they do, they're the 1%. I think you take a deal. Like if you get like multiple first rounds this year, next year, plus like some wide receiver 2 or 3 guys, I think you just take that deal and you run. But otherwise, more than likely, you don't want to try and buy him anywhere, King's ransom. You don't want to try and sell him anywhere because you're not going to get a King's ransom. So you just keep him and you enjoy the year 3 of Justin Jefferson, and he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver, I think, for his entire career. I think we're looking at a DeAndre Hopkins-esque once he hit his stride type of career, and Antonio Brown once he hit his stride type of career, where he's a wide receiver 1 year in and year out until this weird cliff that these guys all hit. Like injuries or whatnot.
Yeah, and Jefferson is a freak of nature athleticism. So it's not like you're not investing into a future of your team. A great cornerstone guy to build around, especially in a full PPR league. Mm-hmm. This is a steal and a half if you can just hold on to him. You get some running back 2 productivities to go with him, get a solid. This is a cornerstone. This is one of those players that, once you have the opportunity to acquire, you just let him right out on your team.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like you can always trust that you have a wide receiver 1 in your team for as long as you want. Now let's talk about, that's a very simple topic. Let's go ahead. Who are you trying to get rid of for peak value in Minnesota?
I'm trading Madison simply because you can sell him on the Dalvin Cook injury thing as a handcuff, and you're going to get potentially get that Dalvin Cook owner to overpay. Not saying disparaging anything of Dalvin Cook, but injury prone.
The facts are facts. Like he's been hurt, he's been injured. That you're not even bashing him at that point. Like he's missed. He's never played a full season in the NFL.
Yeah,
in 5 years.
Yeah, and Madison, when called upon, produces.
Yes.
This is. I think this is a situation we've talked about before in the Pollard situation, where if Zeke misses a game, Pollard steps in. Same, can get the same productivity out of Zeke. Now this is a little bit different because, I feel Cook is a little bit better running back than Zeke. But I think Madison gives you that same dynamic when plugged in there without the real risk of injuries. He's not taking that wear and tear. Cook is a very physical runner. He likes to take those big hits. Mm-hmm. Madison is a good elusive runner. He runs the corners. He's very smart when he runs. So I think you could sell him to possibly the Cook owner at a higher value than what he should be sold at. Or you could sell him on the value of, look, Cook is not going to be producing here. Take him. When you need him, flip him. You could try and work out a deal that is more so setting up the next owner for a potential payday. But you kind of hype that up like, hey, he's going into his 4th year of his last year of his rookie deal. He's going to become a free agent and be able to sign as a number 1. Last year, as the backup and filling in games, get over 700 all-purpose yards, get over like 30 catches and like 4 touchdowns. Like imagine if he was starting, he would be a 1,500 plus yard guy. And I think that you can sell him on that where somebody goes, okay, well then I'll cash in next year for even more. And you might even be able to win a deal now and they could win a deal down the road. I think that he is a guy that you sell on the hype, the potential, the fill-in ability, the health that he has had. Like he played 16 games last year.
versus Cook's 13. And like I said, Cook's never played a full season. And I think that right there is a way that you can, maybe you're in a league with a Vikings owner that doesn't own Dalvin Cook and he really likes Madison, kind of like Cowboy fans really like Pollard. You could probably sell him to somebody right there and maybe get a late first and be like, this draft class is pretty weak. Here's a guy that's probably going to step up, be good. He's better than the running back 6 you're going to get in your single quarterback league. I don't think it would happen, but maybe you could pull it off, And I think he's a good trade candidate right now.
Yeah, cash in on that value, cash on that height.
Hey, he finished his running back 37 while being a backup and filling in. I mean, there's nothing that tells me that he wouldn't have standout games as the lone back or in a different offense that would give him that. In games that he had over 10 touches, let's say 11 touches. He had 4 games over 11 solid touches. And in those games, he had 24 fantasy points, 27 fantasy points, 22 fantasy points, and 16 fantasy points. Give him the rock more. He's going to score for you. And I think it's a good time to move him because who knows what's going to happen with this offense this offseason. And with all that being said, we are done here with Division 7 of this buy, keep, and trade series. Next week, we will touch on the AFC North, our final division, before we move on to some more offseason talk. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Go check us out. We're partners with the W2M network. You can see us over there. When you're over there, you can check out Jason, who reviews movies on a little pod called.
Yeah, you gotta check out the Triple Feature or Debut Hollywood, where I partner with Mark Gradledge. We do some movie reviews. Just finished up a month-long review, Black History Month, so it was real fun. Also, just want to throw this out there. If anybody's looking for startup owners, hit me and Ty up. We are looking for a startup league to be a part of. So drop us a DM and we'll definitely get back to you.
Yeah, and you can check me out as well extra on Love War Challenges podcast, reality-based TV show talking about MTV's The Challenge. With all that being said, thanks for listening, guys. Send us DMs. Let us know if you got any startups. We're going to join as a partner team. I'm not going to take over 2 teams. We just don't want to run a league because I got too much on my plate right now, but I can co-manage another team. So with all that being said, thanks for listening, guys. And again, just because it's the off season doesn't mean you got to go to bed and sleep and wake up in September when fantasy starts. Start making those trades today.